Aloha. Thank you for attending and viewing the services for my uncle Yasu. The family has asked me to write the eulogy of his life that I will share with you now. The year was 1923. The world's first domestic refrigerator is sold in Sweden, and the world's first portable radio is developed in the US. The United States President, Warren G. Harding, one of the most popular US presidents to that point, collapsed from a heart attack. This pressed Vice President Calvin Coolidge into service, becoming president in early August. 1923 was a year filled with other monumental tragedies. Mount Etna volcano erupts on June 19th, 60,000 made homeless. In Japan, the Great Kanto earthquake devastates the cities of Tokyo and Yokohama on September 1st with an 8.2 Richter scale magnitude quake, leaving over 100,000 fatalities. It was the most powerful earthquake to hit the region at that time in history. A few minutes after the quake, a 40-foot tsunami swept the region. After the tsunami, fires began in the wooden houses and buildings in Tokyo and Yokohama. Nearly all of Yokohama, Tokyo, and the areas surrounding were destroyed. Yet there were many wonderful and interesting things happening in the world as well. The first Le Mans 24-hour race is run in France. The first professional baseball game is played in Yankee Stadium. In Canada, insulin is introduced for the treatment of diabetes. And on August 5th of that year of 1923, Yasuo, having no middle name, Oshiro, was born. Yasu, as most called him, had 6 siblings and was the second child born to Kashin and Kama Oshiro. Their names in birth order were Hachan, Yasuo, Fumi, known as Jean, Sachi, known as Betty, Charlie, Jane, and Wally. Kashin, Yasu's father, was a truck farmer. Kama worked with him in the fields. As with all farming families, the kids not only went to school, but worked the farm. Yasu grew to become a strong, efficient, hardworking young man. Everything he did brought success. He worked on the farm, and his work became integral to its continued success. Yasu left school after 8th grade to devote all of his time to the family farm. Word of Yasu's diligence and work ethic spread quickly. His uncle Ma had a pig farm on Maui. Yasu left the family farm for a bit, learning how to raise pigs. As always, Yasu quickly found his way to become integral in developing their success as well, bringing back to the family farm what he had learned. When asked how he and Nancy met, instantly the room would warm as he would peer directly into her eyes, dressed in the biggest of smiles. They both would light up, he proudly saying that they met at a bowling alley in Wailea. Nancy was with 2 other ladies, neither one could remember their names. He saying Nancy was the prettiest. And we could all hear him say, "And I got her." Nancy was always his pride and joy. They were married on November 24th, 1950. If ever there was a match made in heaven, this pairing would be shining example. Yasu and Nancy's devotion to one another was clearly observed by everyone and anyone wherever we saw them. They were madly in love all the time. No one has ever heard them argue about anything. Every time someone asked how long they were married, his beloved wife Nancy would share the number of years they had been together, finishing it with a sigh. All those years with the same man. Then she would grab his hand lovingly, looking into his eyes, often kissing him. Yasu's untimely passing occurred a month before what would have been their 70th anniversary. This kind of love, deep love, breeds a beautiful family. Lance came along first, September 26, 1951, followed by Donna 3 years later, March 25th, Tammy 6 years later, February 6, 1960, and a little over 2 years later, June 14, 1962, Paula entered our world. In each of the kids, we can see the various traits of their mom and dad. Lance's enduring smile and warmth set him up perfectly to enter the hospitality field, caring for and serving others. I remember witnessing this guy even smiling as he crashed fast asleep on the couch in their living room. Just like his father, nothing seemed to rattle Lance. Donna's fire and strength, attention to detail, along with compassion, made her perfect for working in the medical care field as well. When she worked in the San Diego area, I remember family and friends gathering regularly in her home. Our time together would be just like the many warm and gracious gatherings we had in Yasu and Nancy's home. Tammy, too, has great strength with great care. She and Bob fostering children when they could not have their own. In the untimely passing of Bob, Yasu and Nancy would consistently be available to relentlessly serve and love their grandchildren, even crashing at their home to help. And Paula is also a continual servant, currently making masks for anyone without charge. She has the faithfulness of her mother's devotion to her husband, kids, sisters, and frankly, anyone she's with. Yet though the most petite, she is strong and not to be messed with. Indeed, both Nancy and Yasu raised strong, disciplined, yet very caring kids. All the kids, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, countless nieces and nephews remember Yasu's love for them as huge. Yasu is survived not only by his loving wife Nancy, but also the 4 children previously mentioned, along with grandchildren, Brandon, through Lance, Kate, Donna, Kelly, Paula, May, Sarah, Ashley, and Jonathan, Tammy, along with great-grandchildren Jeremiah, Zachariah, Brian, Serena, Amaya, Kainoa, Olivia, and Alea. For as long as any of us can remember, Yasu worked as a pure pack machine operator at Foremost Dairy, which was founded in Hawaii in 1952. The plant closed in 2004 after Japanese company poured in $2 million trying to fix all the failing equipment and make them competitive. But even that wasn't enough. Part of me wonders if the failure is due to the retirement of Yasu, who had a way of fixing and keeping machines running with his machining and mechanical skills, along with the blessings that followed after him and with him wherever he worked. Yasu was foremost the best at fixing and doing just about anything. Yasu's tinkering and fixing also turned to cars. I cannot remember a time when we'd visit Hawaii that there wasn't some old dilapidated car sitting to the right of their home in some state of repair. He fixed them up, learned how to paint, and would resurrect hot cars that were loudly and stunningly beautiful with deep, sparkly paint finishes. While Yasu did make additional money on the side, it wasn't his primary purpose. He enjoyed working hard and blessing others. Even in the wee hours of the night, someone might pull up to their home with car trouble. Yasu would drop everything to deduce the problem, prepare the car, purchase the parts, and fix it in short order. He always had the side job of fixing cars. Yasu's car repair abilities garnered faithful, lifetime friends from work that would drop by at all times of the day just to visit. Even between working 2 jobs, he somehow always found time to fix cars of other people, any who had need, anytime. Yasu's great pleasure to rebuild fast stock cars allowed him to gift Lance with a 64 blue Chevy Nova, donned with metallic paint, Paula with a 65 baby blue Mustang, and Tammy with a black 69 Camaro complete with black sparkles and many coats of shellac to shine. He always used tons of shellac to add that certain depth of sparkle. The sparkle continued all the way down to the mag wheels and loud engines ready to race. Most of us can remember seeing his finished cars. They were stunners. Whenever the kids found themselves driving, cars would come alongside and rev their engines to race. When they discovered it was a girl behind the wheels, guys would ask to buy the car. That happened all the time. Guys asking, "How much for your car?" It gave Yasu great pleasure to know his girls, and of course his son, had the hottest, best-looking cars on the island to drive. But it was not enough only to drive the car. In addition, he taught son Lance and all his girls how to change tires over and over, especially his girls, so that they would know what to do and would not require help. Tammy recalls her boyfriends wanting to stay and help her dad, he teaching them how to fix and maintain their vehicles. They became more interested in fixing cars and had to be reminded of their dates. Yet in addition to this, he also fixed cars to give and help others in need. It wasn't completely a money-making proposition. It was just another way he could teach and bless others. His commitment to provide had him working all the time. Besides working early in the morning for Foremost Dairy, once done there, he would also be off to Sand Island to work for Hood Construction. It was there he'd work until the wee hours of the morning. Yasu helped Hood Construction keep their cranes, bulldozers, and vehicles not only running well, but looking good. Nancy, who never liked to drive to town, would throw Paula and Tammy into the car late at night. Together, they would make the drive to check on him. They recall it to be a scary, dark place with only a dog nearby, their dad working by himself at night. And their concern was real. He was not only working by himself in the dead of night. This was a place where dead bodies would be found close to where he was working. Danny, the owner's son, said that they could always count on Yasu to get the work done and had so much respect for him. Everything Yasu did, everything he touched, commanded respect. The quiet, humble integrity of Yasu Oshiro was the real deal. He didn't have time nor the ability to judge, only make wherever or whatever he did the best within his abilities. And in every aspect of Yasu's life, his abilities were steeped in learning, diligent work, and sincere loving care. Yes, helping was the foremost gift of the Oshiro family, led by the generous, deep, lavishly caring lives of this humble power couple. Another passion was his gardening. Wherever Yasu planted and cared for grew to epic proportions, which allowed him to share and bless all our neighbors and friends with his green thumb. Years later, I still have a bag of his Hawaiian chili peppers in my freezer at home. Farming, of course, was still in his blood. He was proud of his 23-inch cucumber, and there are pictures for proof. Yasu's gardening successes even got him written up with a photo of he and his loving bride, Nancy, in the local rag. The article still hangs pinned on a noteboard in their living room. Paula requires that when she would go over to the house in recent years, he would give her a lot of vegetables, much more than they could ever eat. It was a hint to have her make pickled vegetables, or namasu, for him since Mom stopped making them. They also had wonderful plants that produced beautiful flowers for Nancy to make leis. Eventually, Yasu learned to join her in the making of them. He learned from his beloved bride how to make puakenekene leis, and it got really good at it. Once again, Yasu lovingly sharing them with anyone and everyone, of course. Yasu took great pride in his work. There were also great fruit and blessing from others in every aspect of Yasu's labors. The family remembers planning a surprise 60th birthday for the gathering for Yasu. He was working his part-time job, and they had to get Uncle Herbert to shut down the yard to tell him to go home so that they could get him to his own surprise party. Finally, Yasu had enough of working for the dairy and at age 62 retired. So what happens when retirement comes for a man who is always busy working? For the next 30 plus years of his life, Yasu would continue fixing cars and painting them part-time, working in his garden and yard, ironing his jeans, and learning how to make lays with the love of his life. Oh, and then there was a newfound passion, golf. My father, Roy, introduced Uncle to the game on one of our visits, teaching him the basics. Roy had already been teaching his wife, Maxine, and my cousin, Donna. They told him to start learning so they could play together whenever the opportunity allowed. Immediately, Yasu was hooked. The beautiful Bayview Golf Course and driving range was just down the street from where they lived, dangerously close. Yasu had the time and the desire to enjoy the discipline of hitting a tiny ball as far as he could, and then chasing after it, as well as spend hours at the range developing the skill to control and hit the ball well towards its tiny end on each hole. He could be found somewhere on the golf course every day, even if it was raining. I remember Auntie Nancy telling us that he finally found something for himself to do that was fun as well as good for him. Oh, and of course, he found that he could tinker and repair golf clubs with new grips. Another joy for him in retirement was investing in his grandchildren. Kate, daughter of Donna, and Kelly, daughter of Paula, remember Grandpa teaching them how to hammer nails in boards in Grandpa's garage, a skill every girl should know and be able to do well. Kelly, of course, practiced until she got it down pat. One time, Yasu was taking a nap when Kate was about 4 years old. She painted his toenails with bright red polish that had glitter in it. When he woke, he just laughed and grinned ear to ear. Early the next morning, he went golfing, and when they had finished the round of golf, he and his gang went to have breakfast. He took off his socks to put on his slip-ons, and everyone laughed as he forgot he still had bright red polish with glitter on. He never got mad. In fact, Yasu never got mad about much in life. Yasu just took everything in stride. Yasu did everything he could to make sure he was able to do his share in providing, caring, and loving everyone he knew. We all have stories about Yasu. We all know we were dearly loved by this man, though he never really verbally told us. He was foremost at doing, investing, and caring. These things deeply connected us to this great man. Lance and his wife Tanya and their son Brandon say that he was a loving and generous father who loved golf and loved to golf, making time with his family. Cousin Jana said that her uncle never judged her. He was lovingly understanding and supportive. His gentle, quiet ways and actions were always supportive and non-judgmental. To this day, she remains very thankful for Yasu's support. And that statement also brings up an important characteristic of Yasu. He didn't have a judgmental bone in his body. He believed his faithful love and integrity would be his investment of support that would bring change for the better in anyone. The English teacher in me, connected to my dearly beloved uncle, concludes with this. I do not think it was just a coincidence that he worked for a company named Foremost Dairy. What a great name. At the time, they were Foremost of Dairy, and the foremost dairy on the island of Oahu. As an adjective is a word used to describe a person, place, or thing, a noun. And as an adjective, foremost means most prominent in rank, importance, or position. Yasu being a person becomes a noun. He was foremost Yasu. What does that mean? Foremost husband, foremost father, foremost uncle, foremost grandpa, foremost worker, foremost friend, foremost provider, foremost fixer of vehicles of any kind, foremost Yasu. As an adverb, foremost means before anything else in rank, importance, or position in the first place. And an adverb is a word that's used to describe a word or phrase that modifies or qualifies a verb. What makes a person foremost is not simply their title, but their doing, which is described by using a verb. Enough of teaching, though. Yasu was always teaching us. Everything about Yasu Oshiro was foremost loving. Yasu's life was foremost a loving husband, a dedicated father, an always available grandpa and great-grandpa, a diligent, dependable worker, a caring uncle, a faithful friend. He was foremost in everything he did. Humble, yet strong, quiet, yet spoke powerfully in strength through his actions. Yasu Oshiro was always willing to care and serve anyone who had need. The entire life of this quietly humble man leaves a legacy of love and care that cannot and will not ever be forgotten. Should we choose to hold on to all that we learned by being around this man, doing the same kinds of loving, serving, and caring, mixed with our unique gifts, the world around us will always be a much better place. We would be driven to be foremost humble, yet foremost genuinely loving, diligently doing our best to foremost invest into every life we encounter with the foremost of integrity. As we remember this great man, this great yet quietly humble and deeply caring man, we need to fan into flames everything he poured into each one of us. Our world now, more than ever, needs people who are foremost like Yasu Oshiro. Your life, Yasu, uncle, is foremost alive in each one of us for all the rest of our days. We love you now and always, as you loved us then and always. You, our dear Yasu Oshiro, are foremost missed by each and every one of us. God bless you. Thank you.